I was a lecturer in music, which is why I get some music today and why I've got a heart for artists, theatre people, musicians, all of us that do creative things, okay? And look, our place in the world is not that certain to begin with. When I moved into medicine, there was so much more certainty. I just had to pass these exams, then I would end up with a job, right? Previous to that, there wasn't that certainty, and you're living that at the moment. So today I'm going to talk about if we have gone through a bushfire crisis, gone from droughts to floods and now a virus crisis, how are we supposed to move forward into a future of such uncertainty? So the real operative word is change, because there's been so much of it. And look, I've got to tell you that moving from high school and home to university and living by yourself or sharing is a lot of change. It's huge. And as a psychiatrist, I see a lot of people in this transition time because they move from structure to no structure. When you're at school, people say, don't forget to do your homework this, okay? Or your assignment is due and you've got to do this. And then it's, Sam, where were you? I had to get you to do this. And they will chase you up. Once you get to university, nobody chases you. Nobody motivates you. It's up to you to motivate yourself. And that is difficult. And because of that, I see a lot of people in this age bracket who end up depressed, anxious, and addicted to something. Okay? So I want to give you one tip before I even start this lecture that will help in all of that, because we've got more unstructure in society, and our society is actually going to be different. And that has to do with rhythm. See, in classical music, what's important for a lot of it is actually melody and harmony. Someplace new. How are we going to get back? And in a sense, that's what the music is all about. But when we get to popular music, it's the rhythm and the meter. Because you can take your foot to it, you get into the rhythm, you get into this routine, and you relax. So the way to get over an unstructured life is rhythm and routine. But they're longer scale rhythms and routine. The most important rhythm that I want you to have is good sleep. Okay, to keep yourselves healthy, adults need about 7.5 hours sleep. Young adults, it's best to get around 9. Okay, so you put that rhythm in. And the best way to put that rhythm in is decide what time you're going to get up every morning. Okay, 9, 8, 7:30, 5, whatever you're into, it's fine. And then try to get about 9 hours sleep based on that. The second rhythm is food, right? Whatever your diet is, however you arrange your food, have meals around the same time. Get into that rhythm. Then there's your exercise. However you exercise, if you go to the gym, if you go for a jog, or whatever you do, just get into a routine as to how you do that. Your productive work, which has to do with the stuff that you will do for uni, a lot of it online now, okay, is what you're doing productively. So to have some sort of a routine to say, I'm going to put 30 hours of a week, 40 hours of a week, 50 hours a week, whatever you decide, into my productive stuff, what I'm supposed to be doing as a person. And you put a routine around that, okay? And then you have little breaks from your routine. And to get through an essay that's going to take you about 5 or 6 hours, it's a good routine to work for about 3/4 of an hour, take a 15-minute break and do whatever you want, reward yourself. Then go back for another 45 minutes, take a break, reward yourself. And that way you'll get through an essay by doing the work first and then rewarding yourself. And then another routine that is going to become important is socialising. And there's going to be a lot more socialising over the net, through phones, but get to know who your important people are and get into a routine. There are some people that you might call every day. There are some people that you might call twice a week or weekly, whatever. But make times, get into the routine, because we relax. Just like with popular music, we relax with the routine. Okay? But today I wanted to talk about how to actually move forward in the uncertainty that we have in our society. So to do that, I'm going to talk about the virus crisis that we're in at the moment. It's not that much of a crisis. The crisis is how it changes society, rather than the virus itself. I'm going to talk about climate change, because that's going to be our ongoing crisis. After that, I'm going to talk about what happens in your brain when you get fearful or anxious. Anybody who's a little anxious at the moment? Okay, good. Anybody who's a lot anxious at the moment? Okay, I've got my hand up, all right? Because it's trying times. So I will talk about that. I'll talk about what happens in your brain. Then I'll give you 3 things that you can do to move forward into an uncertain future, okay? But first, there is so much information out there. Today's information as to what's happening with the virus is different to yesterday's information. What Qantas has done today is different to what Qantas did a few weeks ago. What's happening in Italy, what's happening in the UK, what's happening in the USA, what borders are closing next, where can't we go next, how many are we up to gathering at the moment? The information changes all the time. And even when I give a lecture like this, you could be on the net just sort of fact-checking to sort of say, well, no, that's already old information. I'm going to stop all of that, because we are all, in a sense, addicted to news and addicted to change, and it's not good for our brains. Instead, I want you to get up and just have a stretch with me. Just stand up. Good. Just stretch up. Good. Put your arms down. That's great. And now just take a deep breath in with me. And take it out. Okay. You guys are good at doing that. That's great. That's good. Take a seat. That's fantastic. All right. So what we're going to do at the moment, instead of it being, 2 o'clock on a Thursday afternoon, we're going to pretend that it's about 11 o'clock at night. We've got one of those wonderful Queensland nights where it's still warm and still and totally clear. And we're going to go for a walk in a field. We're going to lie down and we're going to look at the stars. And we're going to say, wow, how many stars do you reckon there are out there? Ooh, don't know. Well, we actually don't, right? But we've made a few estimates. You see, 100 years ago, before the Hubble telescope, we thought that there was one galaxy. It's called the Milky Way. We didn't know how many stars were in that galaxy. A fair few. We have since found out that there's something between 100 and 400 billion stars in our galaxy. And we found out that there's somewhere in between 10 and 50 billion galaxies in the universe that we can see. Okay? And I don't want you to remember the numbers, it's just sort of like, wow. There are somewhere between 10 and 50 billion trillion stars out there. And you just go, wow. All right? I mean, that's the one with 22 noughts after it. It's an insane number. I've got no idea how big that number is. Then every now and again, you'll see a shooting star. Now, you know that that's a meteorite, it's not a star, okay, but we call it a star because it looks like a star. And you feel privileged to have seen that, and you go, wow. And the feeling that you get is that you're part of something awesome, something big, because the universe is awesome, and the universe is big. And just for those moments while you're lying with us out in that field, the world feels safer. You feel part of something. Now, why did I do all of that? Because when we're in a crisis like this, when we're on our laptops, when we get all the information and the news, it's sort of like, stop the world, I want to get off. It's too much. But when you get a different perspective, when you can get the star perspective, when you can get a helicopter perspective and you look at things from above, things look very different. You get into a space where you can change fear into possibilities, where you can change uncertainty to find stability. And you can move from a nihilistic nothingness towards a special something. I can't guarantee you that the future is going to be good. Nobody can. But I can guarantee you that in this lecture, you will be able to find a pathway to help find a centre in yourself and a sense of self according to the scientific evidence. Okay? So here's what I mean. If we do that, then you'll be able to move forward in an uncertain future. The viral crisis. Right, let's look at some of the facts. The facts at the moment say there's about a 2% mortality rate. That's how it's always reported. Do you know that that means that 98% of people are going to survive even if they get the virus? That's pretty good odds. If we break that down into age brackets, if you are over 80, no? Okay. If you're over 80, there's a 15% mortality rate. That's an 85% survival rate. If you're over 60 and below 80, it's a 10% mortality rate, 90% survival rate. If you break it down, if you get into a bracket like, I don't know, 20 to 24 years old, your chances, if you get this virus, of dying from this virus is somewhere between 1 out of 500 and 1 out of 1,000. So your chances of survival are 499 out of 500 or 999 out of 1,000. Okay? I did nothing to change the facts there. They are just facts. But we're looking at it from a different perspective. You go, oh, not really afraid of the virus. The biggest risk for you guys is infecting your grandparents. Okay? They could go sooner than you wanted them to. That's actually your biggest risk. That's what you need to guard against. Okay? But the biggest fear, the biggest anxiety that is plaguing people, including myself at the moment, is change. Society is going to change. And it's changing in a big way, and we don't know for how long. So that is uncertainty. So how do we negotiate all of that? Well, we get out in the stars and we see the crisis from a helicopter perspective. And that will help us get through the uncertainty and cope in an uncertain future. Climate change. The facts about climate change is, as far as the scientists are concerned, case closed. Right? Climate change is real. Humankind is contributing to it. So why all the denial? What's going on? Well, as a psychiatrist, I kind of understand the mechanisms of denial. I'm going to take you to a time last year when Caroline and I were driving down from the Sunshine Coast, and we were in a car accident that was potentially going to be horrendous. We were driving along, traffic stopped all of a sudden, we slammed on the brakes, people behind us slammed on the brakes, but the person behind them smashed into them into a big way, smashing them into us. The car behind us was crumpled, there was steam and petrol going, there was a woman and child trapped in the car. Everything was fine. Nobody was actually injured, it was just an insurance thing. But it could have been disastrous, okay? And the person who was driving the car, whose fault the accident was, rushed out and said, there was nothing I could do, all right? I had nowhere to go. I just had to play onto the car in front of me. And he was right while he was talking about the split second before the accident. But before that, he could have driven a little slower. He could have left a whole lot more space rather than tailgating the person in front of him. Okay? The point is this, he was in denial. It's only now, afterwards, when we look at what happened in the car accident, a helicopter point of view, that we can see that, yeah, there were some choices that could have been done. And to not be in denial means you've got to accept responsibility, which is why a lot of people in our society are in denial. Okay? And the way to get through this for you personally is to do what you feel called to do for the environment. Now, you may feel that whatever you do, and there's lots of different measures that you can do to make a difference, is just going to be a drop in the bucket. But enough drops in a bucket will fill a bucket. Okay? And it's really interesting because we're now in the situation where, do you know the canals of Venice are looking a lot fresher? Do you know that the air is cleaner over China at the moment? Do you know that because we're now grounding all of our planes and our boats, there's fresh air for everybody to enjoy? Now, I'm not saying that this crisis is the answer to climate change. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that we human beings will learn lessons from this. And it will then be our choice to see if we can apply them to tackle this, okay? And when it gets to the point that people realise, oh, we can actually make money by transitioning, okay, then a lot more people will be out of denial and on board with something that can be done. And so keeping this perspective helps you move forward in an uncertain future. But let me go to your brain and just share with you a few ideas of what happens in your brain when we're in fear states. You see a whole lot of things that you haven't seen before. You go to the supermarkets, shelves are empty. You see people actually panic buying. You see people walking around with masks on. You see people avoiding each other, even being belligerent to each other. And your brain sort of goes, what's going on? I haven't seen this before. Where are those helpful, kind human beings that I thought this world was going to be full of? All right? And because this part in your brain, it's called the amygdala. That's just a word that means shaped like an almond. Right? Because scientists, when they name bits of the brain, they don't want to seem stupid. They sort of say, yeah, that's the almond. So they find a Latin term and they say, we'll call it amygdala. And that sounds nice and official. It just means almond, because that's what it looks like. Okay? Its job is to keep you alive. So it remembers what is a threat to you. And it says, I don't want you to go near that. And what it does is it tells the hypothalamus, which tells the pituitary gland, which tells the adrenal glands, which just sit on top of your kidneys, to pour adrenaline into your system. And so you start walking around like this, you know, and you can't sleep at night. You're shaking a little bit. You've got strange thoughts going through your head. You've got butterflies in your stomach. You might even have a tremor, okay? Some people sweat, heart rate goes up, breathing rate goes up. But because this is an everyday thing, it's not like you want to run, but it's just your baseline level of anxiety goes up. And you know, that doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good. So that's why you look for star and field experiences. You look for things that will give you that helicopter point of view that will go, you know what, let me take down my baseline anxiety. Because anxiety in all of us is like a little monkey that can get out of control and cause us problems. But it can also make life fun and exciting, okay? Because when you go to a roller coaster, okay, there's anxiety there, but we call it excitement because we want this to be fun. It's the same sort of energy. All right, but I want to talk about 4 brain chemicals in your brain because anxiety like that makes us feel bad, and all humans hate feeling bad. So we do things to make us feel good. And some of those can get us into trouble, right? Okay? You can spend hours watching one episode after the next, you know, and 3 days later you go, oh, I was supposed to have an assignment done, right? But there are other things like drinking, taking drugs, having sex with people that you can't trust, okay? These are things that will make us feel good for a small amount of time, then you're feeling bad again, and then you've either got to do it again or you've got to say, hey, how can I get out of this? All those things that bring us pleasure, comfort eating is another one, by the way, does exactly the same thing, gives us pleasure for a few moments. All those things that give us pleasure are mediated by a brain chemical called dopamine. Right? Now, you've probably heard of dopamine. It mediates pleasure. I'm simplifying a lot of the brain, but I have to just sort of get through this. I want to introduce you to 3 other brain chemicals that will give you good feelings, okay? But it's not just good feelings, it's also to help you survive as a human being. Because what our society does is give a lot of dopamine hits, right? Every time you go onto your screen and see a movie or an ad, they're giving you dopamine hits, okay? Things to make you feel good straight away. And it sucks all of us in, right? So you've got to take the helicopter view to say, wait a minute, I'm getting a bit addicted to this dopamine stuff here. What were those other brain chemicals? The other brain chemicals are oxytocin, serotonin, and beta endorphins. So I'm going to talk about all of those. But the nice thing is that dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins spell out the word dose. Okay? So I want you to have a good dose of these brain chemicals that are good for you as a human being, as well as making you feel good. Dopamine, pleasure. O is for oxytocin, my favourite. Oxytocin is the love drug. Oxytocin is the hug drug. It mediates any feeling that we get of love, kindness, trust, and friendship. All those good feelings, okay? Like even when you shake hands with somebody because you've just done a deal, okay? You're going out to pay the rent or something, or you're going to a real estate agent. Yeah, you got that one? Good, thanks. Shake hands, or you make eye contact that says, yeah, we've made a deal here. It feels good just to be in contact with another human being. That is mediated by oxytocin. And during this time, this coming time, get as much oxytocin as you can. How do you get oxytocin? You get oxytocin by keeping in contact with people who are important to you. Your family, even if you've got difficult relationships, okay? Keep in a relationship with whoever you can, right? Friends, making new friends, okay? This may even be the time of keeping contact with somebody that you haven't spoken to since 10th grade or something, okay? How are you doing and how society is changing? Do you mind if we keep up this sort of interaction? That's all going to be good for oxytocin, okay? The next one is serotonin. Now, as a psychiatrist, I use a lot of serotonin in antidepressants that I use people. Most of them work on the serotonin system, okay, to boost serotonin. Serotonin isn't so much a happy drug as it is a chill, feel comfortable, feel relaxed sort of a brain chemical. When you get home into a familiar space, you close that door, you take your shoes off, and you throw your bag down, and you go, ah, I'm home. Okay? That's the feeling of serotonin, right? You just feel good because you can drop the mask and you can authentically be yourself. Okay? What gives serotonin? Feeling useful, doing things that you enjoy. Okay, but also being with people, right? And being authentically yourself. Beta endorphins. A lot of people know beta endorphins as the runner's high. Okay, if you exercise enough, your brain will give you this rush. Endorphin means endo, inside, and phin comes actually from morphine, okay? So it is the morphine that the brain makes for itself, okay? It's sort of a little bit of a rush, okay? It's not sort of huge amounts of morphine. But that's not where we get most of our endorphins from. We get most of our endorphins by being together as people. Good. Why did you do that?
It's fun.
Yeah, that's right. It's fun. It's fun. But what happens is, oh, a little bit of music, okay? I'm going to join in. And then a bit of hesitancy first. A few people join in. And they go, oh, people are joining in. I'm going to join in too, right? If you have ever seen those documentaries of fish, where there are thousands of fish, right? And they're swimming in this direction, and all of a sudden they go, boom, in the other direction, all at once. And it seems like magic. Or birds, millions of birds, all of a sudden they go, boom, and they all fly up at the same time. That is all mediated by endorphins. Endorphins are the together drug. Whenever you make music with people, like that little thing there, it's actually magic. We don't really know how we do all of that. But in a few short seconds, all of our brains synchronize. All of our brains listen to each other and say, I'm part of it, I'm part of it. And you'll go, oops, I was a little bit out there, and you adjust so that you're part of it. Okay? Same thing happens in dance, same thing happens in performances. You can feel part of it. In fact, that feeling of flow, when you're on stage and you're going, oh my gosh, I'm in character and I'm doing well here. That feeling that you're together with somebody else on stage and the audience are with you, that flow is mediated by endorphins. It takes pain levels down because if you've got a sore foot, you don't want to say, sorry guys, can't be with you. I'm not playing my part in this, okay? You'll have to do without me. No, nature says, I want you over there. I want you there with those people. So I'll give you a painkiller so you can be with people. That's endorphins, being together with people. And if, aside from the dopamine, which is really pleasurable, you can give yourself oxytocin love hits and serotonin chill comfortable hits and beta endorphin togetherness hits, then you are doing what you can to be able to move forward in the uncertain future. Because you will feel that you're there. You're being yourself. Okay? You're part of it. Alright, so now I'm going to give you 3 things that you can do that will make a difference in the current changing climate. Right? Now the first one's going to sound really straightforward, but there's a few things about it that are worth considering. Okay, it's know what you can control and know what you can't control. Now that just sounds logical. It is! Alright, but what do most of us do, including me here? We worry about what we can't control. I worry if people will like me. I worry if I have said the wrong thing. I will worry if I have used the wrong language. I will worry if I'm just not fitting in with people. Right? We worry about those things. We worry that we're being judged. Oh my God, don't we? We worry about being judged, and yet being judged is not in our control. Right? So there's a lot of effort going into what is not our control. But the flip side is, when you worry about what you can control, it comes down to this. Do your best in whatever you're called upon to do. And forget about the rest. Now that's hard. When I was in first year uni, studying music, my first essay, music in Greek antiquity. Thrilling subject. Okay? I failed. I failed my first essay. That felt horrible. But here's the thing. I actually did my best. And afterwards, I went to a tutor and I said, what did I do wrong? And the tutor sort of said, well, your information was all over the place and you didn't have an argument running through it. Okay, good. We can handle that. And I learned about that and I didn't fail any exams after that. That's a success, right? This is a failure. Goofing off and getting a C- for a essay, which is a pass, when you're capable of an A. Okay? As far as I'm concerned, as a psychiatrist, that's actually a failure. Because society will say, yep, you got it. But as a person, you're not doing your best. Okay? So here's the thing. In everything that we do, we're going to be judged. You'll be judged for every essay. You'll be judged for every scene that you do. You'll be judged for everything that you do as a human being. But you are not a human doing. You are a human being. Okay? And that makes a big difference because yes, you can be judged for what you do, but you cannot be judged for who you are. If somebody is judging you for who you are, that's their problem. And it is a problem. And I got to say it hurts, all right? It doesn't help. But you cannot be judged for who you are because this is who you are. Your brain is filled with dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and beta endorphins, and a whole lot of other chemicals. It may be only a 1.5 kilo lump of fat with some protein added and some sugar and oxygen to keep it going. But each of your brains is unique. In the 70 billion people that have walked this earth, there has not been a brain just like yours. your brain has over 100 billion neurons in it. Okay, they're the cells that talk to each other, and they make patterns. And yours is a unique pattern. And if we look at all the atoms in each of those cells, okay, here's the amazing thing. Each atom has got a nucleus with a couple of electrons going around it. And then you look at it and you go, you know, that looks just a little bit like a solar system to me. And all of a sudden, every atom in your brain starts to look like a star. And there are actually more atoms in your brain than there are stars up in the knowable universe. It's astounding, which means that there's something about you and the stars that belong together. You're part of it. You're part of something big that we don't understand. And just knowing that, and knowing what you can control and what you can't, will help you be able to move forward in an uncertain future. Because society is changing all around you, but if you can have a centre and know who you are, then you'll be able to move forward. Which brings me to question number 2. Not question number 2, but point number 2 as to what you can do to move forward. It's a question, and there are some questions that really annoy us. Have you made your bed? Did you do your homework? All right? There are some questions that we've really got to think about. Do you want to try some crystal meth? Do you want to sleep with me? Got to really think about those questions because they have some potentially life-changing things about it. But I'm about to give you a question that it's going to be with you all your life. I'm still grappling with this question. In one sense, part of the reason that we're all here is because of this one question. Who am I? And people go, right? Don't even know if I want to hear that question, all right? Because I've got no idea of who I am. Join the club. Nobody really knows who they actually are. It may take you a lifetime to find it out. And I'll give you a little secret, okay? You don't even have to like yourself. Okay? In fact, as a psychiatrist, I can tell you most people don't like themselves. Because when you look at anybody else, they all look like they're doing the right thing, right? They all look like they're getting on in life. They sort of found a place. If only people knew what goes on inside here, okay? Some of the horrible thoughts that I have, some of the horrible feelings, some of the horrible things that I've done. Everybody thinks that. Because everybody is inside their own head and they know. How do you start to feel good about yourself? The choices you make. When you go, right, okay, first thing I want to try to do is not hurt other people. And when you actually succeed in that, and that's a hard thing to do, you can start feeling good about yourself. When you start doing things and you feel that you're actually useful, okay, that's a really good feeling. Being useful is one of the best feelings on earth. You'll start to feel good about yourself. So, here is how some suggestions to get to know yourself. The first thing is know your values. Now, values are not goals. When we talk about goals, you know, all of a sudden we want to get on stage and be big stars, we want to make a lot of money, we want to be known, we want to have impacts. And the truth is, so few of us, if any, are actually going to do that. But values are deeper things. What do you value? Do you value honesty, integrity, love, family? Do you love people who will be a friend to you, who won't betray you? Okay? These are the things that we actually value, right? And in my office as a psychiatrist, I get to hear how much it hurts when people betray their own values. Don't let anybody tell you what your values are, but do spend time knowing what your values are. Spend a couple of hours on a lonely beach or, you know, sort of on top of a mountain, you know, sort of in lotus position or whatever, and you sort of write down your values. This is what I value. And then write them on post-it notes, put them on the fridge, on the toilet door, on your way out, on your computer, and remind yourself what you value, because we live in a society that's trying to manipulate your values to get you to do what other people want. And when you do that and you let go of your values, you start to feel really bad about yourself. Okay? Now, you may have to let go of a few times when you have done that, all right? All of us do. But then you go, okay, I'm going to try. I'm going to try to live by my values. Okay? And you'll start to feel better about yourself. Values is the number one way. The second way is ask your parents. Your parents have been there since year dot, right? They know what you were like when you were 5, when you were 10, when you were 15, okay? Mum, what sort of things did I play when I was 4 years old? Oh, you used to do this, blah, 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 right, or whatever. What did I say I was going to be, okay? How did I get on with my brothers and sisters? Because your perception of who you are is different from what they saw. And the more information you can get about that, the more you can go, okay, so this is part of me. And then, from that, you'll write out your strengths and your weaknesses. Okay? And you'll feel good about your strengths and you'll feel lousy about your weaknesses. I've been working on my weaknesses for, a long time now, right? Every day I still have to. They're still there. And the other thing that I want to give you, as far as knowing yourself is concerned, is look at the roles that society has given you or you have chosen. Look at the labels that you have. At the moment, you all carry a label called student. Right? Okay, good. What does a student do? Oh, a student turns up to lectures or watches them online, studies for exams and passes exams. That's what a student is supposed to do. A student is supposed to reference things properly. A student is supposed to have an argument in an essay. And you actually give yourself a tick and feel good when you are being a student. And there are times when you're going to goof off, okay? But you see, you will have a routine where you're doing all the work you're supposed to as a student, and if you goof off on a Friday or a Saturday night, that's okay, because that's part of your routine. And here's one way to control pleasures. Enjoy your pleasures. But if they get in the way of who you're supposed to be, it's too much. You've got to pull back, right? So you've got to keep your roles there first. Another role is child. This is a label that I have too. I have a mother and a father, and they are aging. And I call them twice a week, because that's what a child does. They keep in contact with who they were part of, even if there are problems there. So say, hey, it's me, I'm just checking in, how you guys doing? Right? Whatever you can do, see if you can keep in contact with some people who may hurt you badly. Okay? But generally speaking, somebody who got you through to the age of 18, more or less safely. Okay? I hope. Okay? And I know that's a tough one for a lot of people. Another label that you have is friend. Okay? Or colleague, or peer, or student at QUT doing the acting course. Right? So the group of people here that you're with, you've actually decided to be with for about 3 years. Do what you can to become a family quickly, right? And I'll give you a hint, you don't have to like everybody. You don't have to, you just have to be part of their family. Do you like every member of your family? You'll go, no, I don't actually. That's all right. Be as inclusive as you can. Have parties. I know we're in the wrong sort of time for doing that sort of stuff. But be inclusive. See if you can get together and say, yeah, I want you to be somebody who I will laugh with for 3 years, cry with 3 years, put on great scenes, put on lousy scenes, okay? Bitch about some of my lecturers, congratulate each other when things go well. You want to be there. You want to be part of that. You want to be that family, okay? So I've got to give you some ways of doing that, right? Because a lot of it is going to be over the internet rather than face-to-face, okay? You can, by the way, get together and still social distance, okay? And if you get information on how to wash your hands and what to do with your hands when you're together with people, you'll find that you can do a lot together with people, right? And you will have your circle of people that you trust, okay? Try to make that as wide as possible. But there are some people that have meals over the internet with them, okay? Dad, I just thought I'd join you for dinner every Thursday night. What do you reckon? We haven't got together for a while. That sounds a bit weird. Yeah, but otherwise I won't have any contact with you, all right? And we can just chat about things, right? Or you can do that with a friend, you can do that with anybody. Phone calls. Your biggest risk, as I said, is something happening to your grandparents. This is a time to call your grandparents and just say, how you doing? It's me. Remember, I'm grandchild number 7, all right? Oh, yeah. So what are you doing? You bring so much joy to your grandparents, you've got no idea. Okay? And if something happens to them, you want to say, I shared with them. Before all that happened, I had that great time. So keep in phone contact, or even, I was going to say text contact, but grandparents tend not to be good at that. So you do that. Find somebody that you have a common interest with. All right? You could watch a television series, but you've got to structure it. If you're in a different town, watch the same television series, but then stop and do research about the television series and exchange ideas, all right? So that you're both on the same page, all right? Or two people might decide, okay, we are going to explore the hits of 1984. What hits were there in 1984? I don't know, but let's explore it, okay? So you get somebody else who's into music, okay, and you explore it. Or as actors, I'm sure you've got a list of plays that you're supposed to read in this next coming weeks, okay? Well, get together or have some sort of a chat group that sort of says, all right, today we're looking at Act 1 of Mother Courage or whatever's on your list, okay? And let's just have a chat about it, okay? I didn't understand this bit. What do you reckon? I found that a bit weird too, but I think here's what it means, you know. What character would you like to play? And you just discuss things over the internet and you are keeping up contact. And all of this will help you to be able to move forward in an uncertain future. Okay? I'm going to leave you with a bit of music. D minor. Do people know about music? Yeah? Yeah? Does D minor mean anything to people? Okay? Right, so pieces of music are written in different keys, okay? Which means that some are higher, some are lower. But you see, in classical music, keys meant something, right? So if you look at Beethoven, Beethoven's D minor symphony, his 9th symphony, it means something. It has something to do with existential angst. It's got something to do about everything, all right? When Mozart used D minor, he used it for an opera called Don Giovanni. Who represents a dead general to come to life and drag this person to hell. Okay, that's what the whole opera is about. Mahler, when he wrote his first symphony in D minor, he did something really disturbing. He took Frère Jacques and put it into D minor. It's written in D minor, and it does exactly the same thing as what Mozart did, Mahler did, Beethoven did. It talks about existential angst. So the rock group from Chicago, yeah? Disturbed. 2015, that song. If you get a chance, listen to it on the internet. The thing about that song, it's 55 years old, right? It was first released in 1964. It was written by Paul Simon, and it talks about people hearing without listening, people writing songs that voices never share. It talks about how silence, like a cancer, grows. It talks about how we bow down to neon gods. And Paul Simon knew what he was doing. He was talking about a society in the early 60s, but we have gone more in that direction, which is why it was such a big hit for Disturbed a few years ago, right? Because we are all bowing down to neon gods. We call it the internet, okay? We are all becoming silent to each other, which means that we are not getting our oxytocin fulfilled or our endorphin hits, because silence like a cancer is growing. We are hearing without listening, okay? We're writing songs that nobody's going to sing. Who's going to care? That is not the world that you want to have for yourself. So you have an opportunity here as a family to move against all of that. Hear with listening. Speak with talking. Write songs that you all sing together. Don't let silence grow. But it takes effort. Alright, so today what I've done is I've given you 4 things I want you to work on. The first one is rhythm and routine. Okay, just get that going, because there are tough times. You're going to spend time alone, and it's really hard to motivate yourself even just to get out of bed. But if you've got a timetable, you say, yep, 9 o'clock I start this. And you just do it. Number 2 is know what you can and what you can't control. And then you do your best in what you can control, and you'll feel good about yourself. And you leave the rest, because you can't control it anyway. Then the third thing is spend time looking at who am I, all right? And use the plan. Ask your parents. Know what your values are. Be authentic. Know what your social roles are, and spend time writing out your story. That takes a lot of effort, right? But if you can do all of that, you'll start to feel, hey, I am somebody, right? And then the last thing is to build a family with as many people as you can, however you can. And it'll be over the phone and over the internet. Because when we build a family, then what happens is each of your unique brains will be part of some greater whole. Just like each unique star is part of something big that we don't understand. But we're all part of it. Thanks for listening.
Okay, we have some time for some questions, so please fire away. As extreme as they are, as whatever, it doesn't matter, okay? What you're feeling at the moment, whatever, anything, go for it. You're just about to, this is your last day, so ask away, please.
What sort of things do we do to, because obviously we're going into like a very long online period.
Yes.
And we're all like obviously very people person.
Yes.
How do we like overcome that? Like what sort of things can we do?
Yeah. Okay, so the very first thing that I suggest that you do is take the 4 things that I talked about, okay, and start off with a plan. Seriously, start off with your routine, okay? What's gonna keep me feeling okay, all right? Caroline likes her tea at certain times of the day, all right, and she just sits and enjoys them. And I like a cup of coffee every now and again, right? And just taking time out will feel good. But it's got to be part of a bigger plan where you feel that you are moving forward, where you're supposed to be moving forward, all right? The difficulty is you don't know when we'll get back to normal. You'll sort of go, oh, what's the use of doing this, right? But there is use, and it's because you're expressing you, because you're doing the best to become the best you can, right? And I literally want you to spend time with the stars. climb a mountain, go to the beach, do some nature things, because you do get to feel that you belong together with nature somehow. And I know that sounds a bit airy-fairy, but we all get that feeling that we belong. And the people thing is going to be difficult, right? Some people will make the decision to go home with the family. Some people, if you're in a household, that's great. If you can have gatherings with this group of people, okay, even if it's just over the internet, all right, do it. And it'll take effort. And you'll find some of your colleagues will drop out. That sort of say, hey, why don't you come on to our chat time? Remember, between 4 and 6 every Thursday night, we just get together to talk crap. Right? Okay, good. Talk crap. Okay? And do it often. And I'm sorry I can't give you more than that.
No, that's
but it's difficult.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for your question.
Okay, any other questions?
Yeah, it's like that, isn't it?
Well, you talked about some really big things.
Yeah. But rather than get overwhelmed by that, okay? Because there are so many things that could have been said today that you sort of go, okay, where to start? Start with rhythm and routine, okay? And then relate it to what you can and you can't control, and then who you are. Because that's an ongoing project. It's an ongoing project for me, right? But you make a start. And you go, okay, I'm going to use this time, because you're going to have time on your hands, to find out more about who I am and where I belong, okay? And then you share some of that with some of the people here. And it's difficult because I gather you don't quite know each other yet, yeah? Is that? Oh, you got there? Good. Glad to hear it. Fantastic. That's great. That's great.
Yeah, the family has already happened.
I have a question, which is one of the questions for this group, which is how much of a news feed should we look at? We're just being bombarded, and does that actually raise our anxiety levels or not? So how much of that should we be looking at, and how much of the other, like staring at the stars, and what's the best in that way?
Okay, thank you for your question. That's a great question, because particularly for this lecture, I thought I'd better know about this virus sort of stuff. So, but the news changes every day, okay? There are sort of updates and refinements as to how we understand it. Don't let it get too much. I actually try to be informed about things that I can actually do something about, right? Which means that there's a lot that I actually don't need to know, okay? There's a lot of news that I don't need to find out about. If I want to, fine, but don't just keep going through it, because what happens is you get what's called identified. You get fused together with an idea. I've got to find out about the virus. I've got to find out this, you know. Well, what's this person saying about that? Oh, did you see this? Okay, and you're chasing these ephemeral things. At the very least, balance that with times that you go out and you see the stars. Or you watch the kookaburras that you know that are in your backyard, or whatever you happen to have. Or you look up at the sky and you go, you know what, there aren't as many planes as there used to be. Okay? It's a bit more peaceful. So you keep that balance. The whole point is to feel that you belong with part of everything. And the more informed you are, the less you actually feel part of everything. And that's a bit of a paradox. Okay? So, another difficult question, but yeah, if you have a choice between going to another news feed or making a phone call to a friend or a family member, make the phone call. I know it takes more effort, but it's actually worth it.
This is more of a question for Caroline. Is that the recording that's going to be on Whiteboard or something?
Yeah.
Okay, and just on that, I've actually got a website where these recordings will be. I've just put up 2 videos on what to do with loneliness during this coronavirus, okay? And also some of those questions that you gave me.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
The questions that you're giving me on those sheets of paper, I'll be answering them in the next coming weeks, okay? So I will actually just sit and talk and answer some of these questions, okay? And this will be up there as well. Yes, sir?
I have 2 questions.
Yes.
The first one was, how do you, I guess, navigate systemic denial?
Yeah.
And then the other one was when you were talking about your pleasures,
yeah,
and if, like, not letting them get in the way of your role.
Yeah.
How do you go about, I guess, keeping that in check?
Okay, then I'll answer that one first.
Yeah.
The other one is a bit more important. Okay, how do you make sure that you can keep your pleasures in check so that you're on track, right? I'm a big believer in knowing what your goals are, okay? Your life goals. You should only have about 2 or 3 of them, okay? Because they'll generate a whole lot of goals. But here's the thing about goals. Make sure that they're actually informed by your values, okay? Because if you go for goals first, you've got to put in unrealistic goals, all right? Or you keep chasing goals, and if you get them, they're just not going to be satisfying. But if your goals come out of your values, this is what I value as a human being, okay? And you make that generate your goals, then you'll be a lot more satisfied. Now the thing is that a good life is working towards your goals but enjoying some pleasure along the way, all right? But here's the thing, if your pleasures derail you from your goals, right, you'll be less likely, they're just not going to be good for you. And the trouble is, knowing the human brain loves pleasure. Any of us can get addicted to anything, all right? Anybody with a brain can get addicted, and it's actually work for us not to get addicted. So here's the classic thing. I'm working with a young male, okay, who is drinking far too much, okay, binge drinks. What I tend to do is get them interested in the goal of being fit, because being fit means you will live longer, you will feel better about yourself, okay, and you'll be a more attractive person, okay. Now the good thing about keeping fit and drinking a lot is they are incompatible, because you'll get to the stage where if you wipe yourself out on a Friday night, you end up 2 weeks behind on your gym routine, okay, and the first couple of times you go, oh, that doesn't matter, but there'll come a time when you go, that matters, I don't want to do that. So you have found your limit in what you actually want to do. The second thing is, when you do things that are on track for your big goals, okay? Big goals, they don't have to be big goals, all right? They just have to be goals. Reward yourself with pleasure then, okay? So do not get up in the morning and go straight to your news feeds or your incoming messages. And I know that's what we all do, right? But try to do 1 hour of what you think you need to be doing, and then reward yourself by spending a half an hour on your news feeds or whatever you want to be. So the more that you can connect your pleasure with a purpose, the more your brain will be happy. The second thing is a very difficult question. So you're talking about how to negotiate.
Or navigate, yeah, systemic denial.
Okay, so what do you mean on a
I
practical
just
level?
mean, like, I don't know, I guess with a lot of different issues that come up around the world, I think it's very difficult. I don't know if you want to have a voice around trying to, I guess, change that mindset around denial with everyday people that you're talking with, all the way through up the systemic chain.
Yeah. So are you talking specifically about climate change, or should I use that as an
Well,
example?
climate change is probably the biggest one, but I guess, whatever way you want to answer them.
Yeah. Okay. You may not like some of this answer,
Yeah.
but I've got to give it anyway.
Yeah.
Right. This actually comes down to what can you control and what can't you control. Okay. You can't control other people. You can't control what anybody else thinks. You can't even control what other people think about you. However, right, you may be called to do something, all right? You may go, no, you know what? I'm going to be a voice in that. I'm going to be one of the people that raises community awareness about this. Okay? Now, not everybody is called to that, but some people are. And quite frankly, we are all into some form of persuasion, right? And with something like climate change, that's why I sort of talked about denial. Somebody has to bring themselves out of denial, okay? And some of the things that we will learn from this viral epidemic will start bringing a few people out of denial, okay? Because we want cleaner air. We want the canals of Venice to be good, okay? So it's a balance between, you have to have integrity to yourself. So in other words, you've got to do what you believe is right, okay? And that may mean getting out there and saying something. That may mean, no, this is what I've got to do. This is where I belong. Because you will end up in a lot of fruitless arguments, okay? Arguments are fine, just try not to lose people, okay? Can we agree to disagree? Can we be friends even though we disagree on this very thing that's really important to me? Yeah, well, it's really important to me as well. And I've known couples who, in the States, one's a Republican, one's a Democrat, okay? And it's sort of like, how do we stay together? Of course you can. Difficult, but you can. Yeah. Okay, thank you for your questions. Does that sort of go some way? Okay.
Okay, so thank you.
Okay, guys, thanks very much.
Thank you very much.